right, welcome to the Miami Heat Zone podcast. I'm your host, Martel Llewellyn. We're pushing to 5,000 subscribers, guys. Hit that subscribe button, and thank you for all the support. So I'm doing a series where we're Heat fans. Today we have Daryl. I met him through Twitter and through all the Miami Heat spaces. I'm sure some of you guys know him. So Daryl, just for the opening question, what is your current, just outlook on this Miami Heat team? They're currently 10-10, and they just beat the Lakers.
I think they're exactly what they are. They are a 500 team. They've always been a 500 team. They usually stay that way through the first, 25, 30 games and usually get a little bit over. But I think that's what this team is and what it'll continue to be.
So there's a lot of people that will talk about Jimmy Butler and did Pat Riley give him enough help, or maybe, like it was just due to injuries. What do you think about the Jimmy Butler build? Did Pat Riley give him enough help? Did he not? Like, what were some of the mistakes that the franchise made, or was it really just on the team? Like, what's your overall just outlook with this Miami Heat build these past few years?
Some fans are going to think I don't like Jimmy Butler. I actually love Jimmy Butler. I love what he stands for. But the problem is with Jimmy Butler, there's a lot of problems that come with Jimmy Butler. And it's not what people see. Everybody sees, the growling and the yelling and the getting into problems on the court, and they love that because it kind of embodies this, that culture that everybody wants. But the reality is, Jimmy Butler is a player that was built for 10 years ago in the NBA. He's not really built for this NBA now. And he comes with a lot of baggage. He's got a massive ego. He's hard to get along with. It's hard to set up offensive systems around him. And to be honest with you, where they really screwed up was the Kyle Lowry deal. At the end of the day, they gave a huge portion of money to a guy, and they thought they were getting more. Obviously, you take your chances, right? They thought they were getting something, and they didn't get it. And unfortunately, when you're at that age that he was, trying to get off of that contract became a massive problem, and they didn't really want to give him the third-year deal, but Jimmy made him do it. So when people come up and say, hey, Pat's asleep and this and that, I don't think Pat's asleep. I think they are people that run their business, and they're going to do it to the best of their ability. And when you can't, it is what it is. Like they made that bet. You know what I mean? Like he wanted that guy. That's who they got. And you're kind of stuck with that situation. And that's on Jimmy. That's not on Pat.
But see, I always tell people that all the time. Like, we don't really talk about how bad Kyle Lowry was. Yeah, he had that one good year. But outside of that, it's like he came here. He had the attitude. I'm not saying he had to be in the most stellar shape ever, but he knew where he was. Like, he knew he was coming to the Miami Heat. He knew that he was going to have to be in a better shape than what he used to be. And it's just that $90 million, people will always point at everything else. I honestly think that was probably one of the biggest mistakes throughout this Jimmy Butler run, because that $90 million pretty much has tied us up even till now. I mean, yeah, we have Terry Rozier now, but we ultimately had to even use a first-round pick just to get off of Kyle Lowry. So I just think that people don't talk about how bad that decision was. I understand we went to the finals, but even in all those playoff runs, he wasn't even healthy. He might have had maybe 1 or 2 games. And then ultimately, even his last few games here, he wouldn't shoot the ball. He wasn't playing defense. So what was him coming to this franchise really even for when you think about it? And the biggest thing about Jimmy Butler is, why was he so quick to get on Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, and he never held his boy accountable?
Because it was his boy.
You know what I mean? He never held Tyler accountable.
Like when you bring in the godfather to your child and you got to go to work with that guy every day, are you really trying to make a massive issue? And I think sometimes people, they enter in relationships with friends or close personnel or whatever. And when it doesn't work out, then you've got a problem. And then how do you get out of it? And unfortunately, I just think they thought they were getting, at least half of what they used to get in Toronto. Listen, that guy was prolific. That guy was shooting 8 to 10 threes a game. He was, 21 points, whatever it was. I don't remember all the stats, but shit, if we could have got half of that, it would have been serviceable. I don't think he really wanted to be here, to be honest with you. I think he did it as a favor. And when you do things like that as a favor, it's fine for the first little while, but then that stuff starts to grow on you. And if you really didn't like the town, you're like, man, I'm going to be here for the next 2 years, and I don't really like this town, and I'm here for my boy, but this is not really the scenario I want to be in, and it just makes for an unhappy workplace.
So what do we do with Jimmy Butler going forward? There's a lot of people that are hoping, wishing, and praying for the Jimmy Butler miracle run. I just don't think that's realistic. I'm not saying that he can't come out here and give us a few good games, but how can we now pay him another year going into next year at $54 million when he's not ever really going to give us that superstar effort throughout the regular season like a Giannis or a Luka or all these other high paid guys? What do we do with Jimmy Butler going forward? Because I know a lot of people don't want to tank, but sometimes you have to lose to win. That's how we got guys like D Wade and Beasley, and that's how you ultimately get your assets back. All the first round picks that we lost, all the second round picks from mismanagement. So, what do we do with Jimmy Butler going forward? Do we trade him while the Houston Rockets want him, potentially the Brooklyn Nets, the Dallas Mavericks? There's a list of teams that have been rumored to want Jimmy Butler. What do we do with Jimmy going forward?
You said it. You trade him. He's got to go. I mean, I'm sorry. Like I said, I like him. I like him as a player. But if you watch what's been going on with the team over the last 3 years, other than three players, the whole team's under 27. Those three players take up $90 million. Jimmy Butler is 35. Duncan Robinson has been here for, 7 years? You have two replacements for him right now to come in. Terry Rozier is already to the bench, and he is what he is. He's an AAU player. He's a sixth, seventh man. That's what he is. I can build a team with $90 million. I can build a good team with the players that are here with $90 million. And I reset the whole thing. I don't – this team's never going to tank. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that at least while Pat Riley's still here. I do believe Pat Riley has one more big trade in him, and I believe Pat Riley's going to do one more big trade to kind of set this team up for the future with all the young guys or whatever that next trade is going to be, and then I think he goes. I think Pat's probably got 2 more years, in my opinion. But the reality is you can't pay Jimmy Butler. You just can't do it. I mean, I think Pat set it up perfectly at the end of the year. He came out and said, you don't play enough, you don't give enough production for the amount of money that we pay you for, and it's great that you show up in the playoffs, but the problem is we always have to go through a dogfight, get a low seed because you're not here, and that the reality is you don't really fit, like we spoke about earlier, you don't really fit with what A, the modern NBA is now, and B, what we have basically surrounded you with at this point. I mean, I appreciate all he's done, but at the end of the day, you have to make hard decisions when it comes down to it, and you need to move on, and you need to find a player that you can now start to build around Tyler and move on with that in that direction, in my opinion.
Now with Bam Adebayo, he's been struggling of late. What do you think about Bam Adebayo so far this season? I still think, he's definitely going to be playing better. I just feel like the Miami Heat, they definitely ask him to do way too much. And I think it's a shame that ever since the bubble, they really haven't put the proper forward next to him. I mean, he's been very vocal about not playing the 5 anymore. They drafted KEL'EL WARE, which we'll get into a minute, and they're not even playing him. So why would they even get KEL'EL WARE in the draft if they know he can't really contribute right now? So with Bam Adebayo not really wanting to play the 5, he's kind of struggling. What do you think about Bam Adebayo so far this season?
I've thought the same thing about Bam for a long time. I don't believe Bam is a building block. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. He's a great player, but he's not a player that you quote unquote build around. He's a glue piece. He's a part of what you're building. I used this reference before. This team and the way they're doing things now, and I've said this before, reminds me a lot of the way Golden State was set up, just because Bam and Draymond are so alike. They're in the way I look at them. They're defensive anchors, they're hubs. But that team was built around Stephen Clay. And then Draymond is the glue that holds that together. I think the same way about Bam. I think everybody gets upset with Bam because, they put this unrealistic expectation on him they want him to be this superstar, and he's not. And I think when people will stop doing that, it's a lot easier to find or figure out how to build a team properly. Because if you keep waiting on Bam, I think you're just going to keep waiting. I mean, he's been here 7 years. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not saying he's not worth the money. Yeah, he's absolutely worth the money. But he needs to be put in his right spot. He needs to be a 4. He's always been a 4. But listen, that's another conversation because, I'm not a huge fan of Spo. So at least on the offensive side. And, I don't understand why you draft a center and you don't play him. I don't understand why your player development in UD came out on national television and said he's a 4. I don't understand why Bam came out and said he wants to play the 4 and he's the captain, but yet we don't do it. There's a lot of things I don't understand. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but I think people just need to realize that you got to stop worrying about building around Bam and just understand that, hey, this is a great player. We're paying him, and let him be a part of what the next iteration of the next build is.
No, but you made a very good point because don't get me wrong. Like I think a lot of people have those same expectations for Bam only because we've seen the 30-point games, we've seen him dominate, we've seen him be very helpful for this Miami Heat team, especially offensively at times. But you made a very good point. How long are we going to really sit around and wait for Bam to be that offensive guy? Night in and night out. Don't get me wrong. I think they have him doing way too much, guarding 1 through 5, the rebounding, everything. But you made a very good point. Like I said, how long are we going to wait for him, to really turn it up offensively? And I just think that from the season that he had last season, it just feels like he's regressed. But it's back to what you said. He's more of a glue piece. But what do you think about KEL'EL WARE? Do you think he's ready? Do you think he should be getting minutes? They just sent him to the G League. Do you think they should have went after Dalton Connect or maybe McCain? Do you think that was the right piece?
No, he was the right piece. Everybody wants to look, in hindsight and say, oh, Dalton Connect. And listen, I thought Dalton Connect was a fine player, but that's not what we needed. Like, what are we kidding ourselves? We get out rebounded 90% of the games. What are you getting another guard for if you're getting out rebounded? But the problem with KEL'EL WARE is, yeah, he's probably not ready. Who cares? I don't care. I'm one of these guys that if you're gonna draft somebody in the first round, you play them. Yeah, he's not ready. Okay, who cares? So, but now he's ready for next year. The problem I have is it's the same thing they did with Jovic. So what happens? He's not going to play all year, and then you're going to wait to year 2 to maybe get him in some more minutes. If Bam is the defensive player of the year type candidate that he says he is, who better to play KEL'EL WARE next to than Bam? I don't get it. There's deeper issues with a lot of that stuff going on, I believe, honestly. But I don't believe the front office and Spo are on the same page. I've thought that for a while. It makes no sense to me. Like look at 2 days ago. They came out and said he had tendonitis and he played in 2 games. The very next day, he's playing in Sioux Falls. So you had tendonitis or you didn't want to play him? I don't know. You tell me. I said at the beginning of the season, I would have started him from day one. And I'm not telling you you're playing him 36 minutes a game, but there's no reason why that kid's not playing 12 to 18 minutes. None. And I don't even care if he sucks. I don't. I absolutely don't care if he sucks. Because he does. You see the lapses. You see the defensive lapses at times, and I get it. I understand it. But that's going to happen. But I also see him deterring shots at the rim. I also see a guy who shoots threes. I also see a guy who is playing a position that the guy you just paid doesn't want to play. I also see that we don't have enough defenders on the floor, which Spo likes to play 3 defenders at a time. We don't have that. We've got 2. So if you take Bam and you shove him under the basket all the time, that leaves Hayward Highsmith to cover everybody. That doesn't make any sense to me. there's a lot of things that don't make sense. Going back to the Bam thing, Spo decided to change this to this 5-out offense. I think that screwed up Bam too, which is all the more reason why I don't understand why Ware's not getting 12 to 18 minutes. This team will never win a championship. I don't care who's here, as long as they continue small ball. Small ball does not win in the NBA. It is used as a speed up thing for a certain amount of minutes, kind of like Golden State. They went to their death lineup. That death lineup played. I was looking for the other day. I wanted to see how many minutes they would play. But I remember they would just play like at the end of quarters. They would come in for like the last 3-4 minutes. So maybe 12, 14, 15 minutes a game. Okay, that's what small ball lineup should be doing. Not this 48 minutes of 6'4" power forwards. Like that has to stop. I mean, look at last night. They beat the Lakers in the rebounding by almost 20, and look what happened. When you control the pace of the game and you control second chance points, especially on a team that has a lot of problems scoring, you get more opportunities to score. It's just that simple.
Now, what do you think about Tyler Herro? He's been off to a pretty good start. He's been healthy, thank God. He's been in all the trade rumors, and it's funny because everyone wanted him gone, and then now everyone's singing his praises.
Not this guy. not
So,
this guy.
What's your opinion on Tyler Herro so far this season?
Listen, everybody knows me as the number one Tyler guy. There's probably me and 3 others that I know that have been steadfast in the Tyler belief. I've been telling everybody for a while, this kid has the it factor. I don't care how you look at it. We can talk about efficiency. We can talk about injuries. We can talk about whatever. This kid's got 7 game winners since he's been here. How many guys do you know that have hit game-winning shots at 22, 23, game actual winners? He has the it factor. And last night is just a perfect example. I didn't even watch the game last night. I was looking at the stats. I'm not a stat guy, but I was watching it. I was at a fair with my family and stuff, and I'm watching it. He's 4 of 11, and some people are texting me on the side, and they're like, man, look at what's going on. And then all of a sudden I look up, I refresh my phone, and it was he went from 10 to 24 in seconds. And I was like, because he's that guy. Now, I don't think he's a 1A, so don't get it twisted. I know people are going to try to switch it up. I do not believe he is a 1A lead guard in this league. I do not believe he is that. But I think he is a damn good number 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've also done a disservice to him. Yes, he really hasn't been healthy, but then at the same time, and same thing with Bam, they've been so caught up in this undrafted thing. If you know that Tyler Herro isn't the best defender, why would you go get Kyle Lowry? And then also, too, if you know that Bam doesn't want to play the 5 anymore, why would you continue to put Haywood Highsmith and Caleb Martin next to him, which I just think that all those things, even though we've been to the NBA Finals, we've been to the Eastern Conference Finals, I just think that even when we got there, those were some of the glaring holes in our just our team that pretty much ultimately stopped us from winning.
No, it absolutely did. They had no chance. At the end of the day, they had no chance. It's great that you got there. It's it's an amazing accomplishment. But the reality is, if you really, really want to break them runs down, the bubble's a little different to me. I think they legitimately got there. But they legitimately got there off a guy who went nuclear. And you can't expect that because that's not who he really is. The next run, I'm sorry to tell you, man, they paired. If Embiid doesn't get hurt and Giannis doesn't get hurt, I don't even think they make the finals. But everybody's want to say they made the finals. Okay, injuries happen, I get it. But once again, Jimmy had to go nuclear. I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket with a 35-year-old that he's going to continue to do that. So, a lot of these problems, I've said before, a lot of these problems are Spo, man. He's a great defensive coach, and he's a great character coach, but the man don't know offense.
But that's
man, he's horrible at offense.
But why do you think they haven't fixed that? Because we've been struggling to score, I would say, since after the bubble. I just don't understand why this Miami Heat team has not corrected the offense. We've had this whole, third quarter for years now. So why do you think the Miami Heat have not fixed this? Like I said, I think Spo is the best coach in the NBA only because what he's able to do with the roster that he's been given compared to all these other teams that have multiple all-stars, multiple, defenders. And the fact that he's taking Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler and a bunch of undrafted guys to the NBA Finals, where
yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that's the wool that's been pulled over your eyes and a lot of people, to be honest with you.
But no, okay, but hold on. But if you go roster for roster, I just don't think a lot of other coaches are going to do what Spo has done in terms of there's a bunch of players. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the locker room, what separates our franchise from others, but a lot of players have said just the way that he coaches pretty much gets them to play at another level. Whatever that might be, which we've seen Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, guys that, they shouldn't really even be in the NBA, but look at them today.
Spo likes to take a guy's skill set. He sends the scouts out and says, "Hey, I'll give you an example. I'm looking for a tall shooter. I'm looking for a Duncan Robinson. I'm looking for a guy like that." He's able to harness the one thing that they do really well, and that's great. That's a good thing. The problem with that is you can't have 12 of those quote unquote specialists he's turning them into specialists. So every guy has a certain role. Duncan's the shooter. This guy's the defender, this and that. And part of the problem is, going back to like the KEL'EL WARE thing, when you got a team full of specialists, how do you get the help? So I posed a question, I think it was 2 nights ago. You tell me, Duncan's been here, 7 years?
Yeah, about
5 of the 7, he was just a shooter. Last year, everybody wanted to trade him. Last year, all of a sudden, he's throwing lobs. He's throwing, pick and pop passes to Bam. He's has some layups, and everybody's like, where's this guy been? Where did that guy go? If you don't think that that's not being scripted by the coach, I don't know what to tell you. So he didn't do it, and then he did it, and now he doesn't do it again. That's being told to him to do that. And unfortunately, I think people put a lot of this weight in. They're like, well, it's great that Spo does these things, but I also believe he's not allowing these guys to become what they could be. I think there's more to some of these guys, but he doesn't want that. He wants a scripted, particular role, and then you're left with, well, we need more. Well, those guys can't be more because they can't be more under his tutelage. So it looks good to everybody else, and everybody praises him for it. But then you're, like you said, you get to a certain point, and when you need that extra jolt, you need that extra something. That guy hasn't been doing it for 3 years. He looks good to the rest of the NBA, and those guys will get some money, like the Max Struses and Gabes and Kendrick Nuns. And then what happens? They spent 2-3 years in this system. They go somewhere else. Everybody's like, oh, it's Spoelstra that's doing that. No, the problem is that nobody in the league is going to run an offense for your 7th best man. Who runs offenses for your 7th best player? If you took the 7th best player on any team and said, hey, we're going to run 30% of the offense through you, that guy would look good. I don't care who it is. They're NBA players. It's just that simple. I just think people have this belief in Spo, and that's just not me.
So with a weak East, where do you see the Miami Heat finishing up this season?
500. Wherever that falls, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that, some of the players on Philadelphia is going to get better. I don't know if Milwaukee's going to turn around. You already know about Cleveland, Boston. Orlando's a problem. There's some teams that will probably overachieve that don't need to be there, Indiana's of the world and maybe Atlanta or whatever, even though I can't stand Atlanta. Whatever that seeding is going to be, they're going to be right around that same spot. They'll be right around that, 42, 43, 44 win, wherever that's going to fall. And if the East is such crap, maybe that puts them up higher, but I don't think it does anything for you in the long run. I think you probably get bounced in the second round again, and maybe the first round, depending on where you fall, and that'll be that, or depending on what happens. But at the end of the day, they've got to get rid of Jimmy this year. So I think that's all going to change because Jimmy needs to go by the deadline. You can't go to next year hoping or seeing what he does with that option. You cannot lose that guy for nothing. That is the number one thing you cannot do. That's at this point, that's all I care about. You cannot lose him for nothing. You lose him for nothing, that is the nail in the coffin to this franchise.
That, and like, I always tell people, if Pat Riley wasn't going to pay him last year, why would he pay him now when he's missed a bunch of games? Even though some of the injuries were not his fault, that's just basketball. But we cannot hope and wish and pray for Jimmy Butler for another miracle run at 35, where maybe outside of Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors, nobody. Oh, and plus like LeBron, no one's really building their franchise or hoping that their lead player at 35, 40 years old is going to take them on a massive playoff run where we've seen the stagnation, especially these past 2 years. We've seen the stagnations back-to-back playing tournaments. We're back at 500, even though we've gotten Terry Rozier. Duncan Robinson's playing better. We have a motivated Jimmy Butler. So all these different things, we have to look towards the future, especially when you have guys like De'Aaron Fox, who he might not stay. He might not stay with the Kings. There's a lot of other young players. I would gladly take a Kuminga from the Golden State Warriors. We have to worry about the future now. I think it's a lot closer than what we realize. When you look at our roster, it's like what you said, Jaime, Jovic, Pele, KEL'EL WARE, Tyler. I think we have a decent young core. I still think it needs a lot more work, but we definitely have to sell high on Jimmy Butler. We cannot wait to see, all the way down to see what happens, because God forbid he gets hurt again, and then we're stuck in the same exact scenario. He opts into the $50 million, and now he's a year older, and now his contract, even though it's expiring, it's still harder to move. So, Daryl, where can the people find you on Twitter, maybe to listen to some of your takes?
I am the herdsman of sheep on Twitter, which is aforementioned perfect for most of Twitter. So, I'm the black sheep of Twitter. Everybody likes to comment on me, and that's fine. I don't mind reeling them in every once in a while and laying down the law, but I'm not a huge Twitter guy. I just like to get on and talk the sports and stuff with some of the guys. But
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Daryl, for coming on the show. We'll see what this Miami Heat team does this year. Once again, guys, we are pushing the 5,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys for all the support.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.